Hi YouTube, this is Phil with A Life of Adventures, and as you can see we're back in the tent, and yes, we're in the bedroom still. And why? Watch this. Well, as you can see, there's still almost 4 feet of snow on the ground here, except when you get out in the middle and it's down to about bare ground. So it's going to be a little bit before we can go hang gliding. So as you can see, that's why we're in the bedroom tenting. I camp out in my tent in my bedroom about every other weekend, and this is one of the every other weekends. Even though it's spring, by the calendar it's not yet spring here. But I thought I'd bring you a little technical information, and as we go along I'll keep giving you technical things about hang gliding and terminology and things, basically to let you understand some of the terminology that I will be using in the video and things, and will make more sense of things. Now, yes, as you know, if you've followed any of my previous videos, I have not personally flown a hang glider before, but I do have a commercial pilot's license with hundreds of hours of flight time. So I am very familiar with that there's a lot of things very similar to hang gliding and flying an aircraft, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about, is just normal terminology that you'll hear me use in these segments, and that we will understand more as we go along. So one of the terms I want to talk about is above ground level. AGL. And when we talk about AGL, we're talking about how far we are above the ground that's below us. And that's important to us because we make a lot of decisions based on above ground level, how far we are above ground level. And that determines, for example, like if we're coming into land, we want to come in and we want to do the same procedures from about the same level every time. And on a hang glider, we do have instruments that will tell us how far we are in the air. And we have to calculate the above ground level ourselves, because there's something called MSL. It's really hard writing upside down. MSL is mean sea level, and when you have, there's a instrument called an altimeter that tells you what your mean sea level is. Mean sea level, or tells you how far above mean sea level you are, and that is done. Mean sea level is a term used for the average of what sea level is considered to be, and that gives you what your altitude is above what sea level is. So from that, and knowing how far the ground is below you above sea level, you can take the two and calculate very easily in your head. We have instruments that can do it too, what above ground level you are. So above ground level and mean sea level are very important terms to us. And one thing I wanted to talk about today is gliding. In a hang glider, you have a glide ratio of about 20:1, meaning for about every 1,000 feet you're in the air, you're going to go 20,000 feet off in the distance, right? So that's a little over 3.5 miles for every 1,000 feet that you're up. So I was thinking about what I could use as comparison for you. And the only thing I could come up with that was kind of hilarious was back in the old days, long before any of us were around, they used to use stagecoaches. I'm sure you're familiar with stagecoaches, you know, you've seen them in movies and that kind of thing. And they would go from stop to stop to stop. Well, in the old days, they used to make these stops every 7 to 10 miles. So to make our numbers calculating easy, if we go 10 miles, let's just say it was 10 miles between them. And the other thing that makes that easy is that when a horse trots, he can trot about 10 miles in an hour. So in an hour, he would go 10 miles. Well, in a hang glider, you can hang glide at a rate of about 30 miles an hour. You're not paying attention to the wind coming from whatever direction, because that affects all the numbers and everything. But let's just use a speed of 30 miles an hour. So, and hang glider, where a horse, it would take a horse going in a stagecoach, it would take a horse in a stagecoach an hour to cover 10 miles. It would take a hang glider doing nothing but going forward. It would take that hang glider about 20 minutes to do that same distance. So you can see, if nothing else, it costs less energy than the horse does, and it's also faster than what the horse is. So it's a move up from horses anyway. And the only thing that you have to account for is, okay, in order to go that 10 miles, how high in the air do I have to be? So if we figure for every 1,000 feet that you're up, you can go 20,000 feet in the distance, right? It's a 20-to-1 glide ratio. So if I'm 1,000 feet up, I can go 20,000 feet out. Well, 20,000 feet is about 3 point, I can't do this backwards. Is about 3.5 miles, okay? So I would have to do that 2 times, it'd be 7 miles. 3 times, it'd be a little over 10 miles. So in order to cover that 10 miles, I would have to start from an altitude of about 3,000 feet. Okay? So that's our lesson for today, if you will. I'd have to be up 3,000 feet above ground level, 3,000 feet above the ground, in order to make it 10 miles without ever going back up using a thermal. Okay? So that gives you a little perspective of what it's like in calculating distances and things, and you're trying to calculate in your mind, how far can I go before I'm going to have to land on the ground somewhere. So have a good day. Thanks for stopping by.